Today's daf yomi is Bava Basra Kuf Chaf Hey 125, but we're going to start on Bava Basra Kuf Chaf Daled Amud Beis 124 B, 5 lines from the bottom. We have been engaged in a dispute about what's the Chachamim's position with respect to a loan that was inherited by the estate. That Chachamim are of the position, they argue with Rebbe. Rebbe says if there were assets that increased on their own, assets increased on their own, then it's considered something that the first one get a double portion in. But the Chachamim argue it, they say they don't get a double portion. But what about a loan? How do we view that? So is a loan considered something that increased on its own, or is it considered something that the estate already has? So we saw that the position of Shmuel was that according to the Chacham, the firstborn does not get a double portion in the loan. It just gets the regular portion. But according to the Amoraim of Eretz Yisrael, they do get a double portion in that loan. So now the Gemara says, well, what does it matter what type of loan it is? And the answer is it does matter, whether it's a loan of real estate or a loan of cash. So the Gemara says, Amarle Rav Acha Barav Ravina, Ikla Meimar La'asr B'Darashit. So Rav Acha Barav says to Ravina, a Meimar came to our place and he expounded, Bechor Notel Pishnayim B'Melveh. The firstborn does take a double portion in the loan of a low beribis. He takes a double portion in the loan, but not in the interest. And Amarle Nardai, and so Nardai said, so he said back to him, Ravina says back to Rav Acha Barav, well, a Maimer is from Nardai, and he says, Nardai L'Tamayu. So a Maimer's position is that he gets to take the firstborn gets a double portion in the loan. Well, he's like Nahardai because he's from Nahardai. And how do we know that that's the position? Because we know that Rav Nachman was also from Nahardai, and there was a machlokas between Rabbah and Rav Nachman. And what was the machlokas? The Amar Rabbah, when the Chachamim, according to the Chachamim, according to the Amoraim of Eretz Yisrael, would say that you get a double portion position of the Chachamim. That Rabbah says, Gavu Karka Yeshlo, Gavu Mos Emo. According to Rabbah, the firstborn, he gets a double portion of the loan if what's being collected is real estate. If it's being collected as real estate, then since there's a lien on the real estate, it's like it's in the estate's position already. And so then the firstborn gets a double portion. But if it comes to cash, he doesn't have that specific cash, so he doesn't get a double portion in it. Whereas Rav Nachman says, Gavu Mos, Yeshlo. So this is like what Ameimar is saying, because Rav Nachman is from Nardai. He says if it comes to cash, then he's going to get a double portion in it. But if it comes to real estate, Einlo. So the cash is considered like it's in his possession already. And so therefore, when it comes to cash, he's going to get a double portion in it. So Amalei Abaye Rabbah. So according to Abaye says to Rabbah, hold on one second. This I just want to adjust the temperature. So again, just thank you for your patience. So let's just review what we said until now. That we've seen a whole bunch of different shitos. We've seen, first of all, there's a dispute between the Chachamim and Rebbe whether or not the firstborn gets a double portion and a loan. That the Rebbe says it's a double portion in the sharach, an increase that went on its own. Rebbe says it does, and the Chum say it don't. But what about a loan? What's that considered? So that there's a dispute between Shmuel and the Amorai of Eretz Yisrael. Shmuel says you don't, that according to Chachamim, you don't collect the firstborn does not collect the double portion in that, but Amorai of Eretz Yisrael say they do. And now we say that there's a dispute within that because Maimar his position was brought to, he came to our place and he said that you could collect the double portion in a loan. And we see from here, but not on the interest. And we see from here that this was like the position of Nardai, because Rabbah says you don't collect the double portion, you only collect the double portion on the real estate, which is not the same as Maimar's teaching. And Rav Nachman said you collect the double portion if the loan was in cash, but not if it was in real estate. So that's the position of Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman Amar Gavo Mos Yeshel Gavo Karka Engel. So Amar Abaye Rabba. So Abaye says to Rabba, Lidi Dach, according to you, says he collects only double portion if it's in real estate, but not if it's in cash. Kasha. Well, Rav Nachman, according to Rav Nachman, he says he collects only double portion if it's in cash, but not if it's in real estate. It's also Kasha. Lidi Dach Kasha. According to you, it's difficult. We're on the top of 125a. Ma'ishna Mos Delo. Why does Rabbah say that if it's a case of money, he does not collect a double portion, only if it's a case of real estate? The Lav Hani Mos Shavakavalon. Because their father didn't leave them this exact cash, he left them an amount. And so this cash is being substituted for that amount, and so therefore wasn't in the estate. Well, Karka Nami, Lav HaKarka Shavakavalon. Your father didn't leave them this exact real estate. He put a lien on the real estate, but if he wanted, he could have exchanged it with cash. And so it wasn't like the real estate was already in his possession. So that's the first problem with Rabbah's explanation. And the second explanation is Mistamer Taima de B'nai Merava. The position of the B'nai Merava, this is Eretz Yisrael, but there's a different position than the Amorai Eretz Yisrael, because this is the case of a Safta, which we're going to get to on Amabeis. And the case of the Safta is where a man left his money to his grandmother, and he said, after she dies, the money should be inherited by my heirs. And so then the grandmother died, and this man's heir was his daughter, who was the great granddaughter of the grandmother, and she was married to another man. But she had already died, and so she died. And so now the question is, she died before the grandmother. The question is, does the husband inherit from the husband of the great granddaughter inherit from the man's grandmother, or does it go to the grandmother's other heirs? And so the B'nai Merava said that the husband does not inherit. Why? The Kadam Safta V'Zavna Zabine Zavine, because if the Safta would have gone up and sold the property, then it would have been a valid sale. So we see from here that he doesn't have the real estate in his possession. And so therefore, this is a problem. Why should according to you, Rabbah, why should the firstborn get a double portion? It's considered earmarked and not like it's in their possession already. So therefore, the Gemara says that Abaye continues and says, the Rav Nachman Kasha. Not only is it difficult according to you, Rabbah, who says that only if it's real estate is it collected, but also according to Rav Nachman, who said only if it's cash is it collected, but not if it was real estate. Does he get a double portion? Why? Ma'ishna karka delo, delav ha-karka shavakav lihon. Now, what's the reason why, if it's real estate, according to Rav Nachman, you don't get a double portion? The reason is because, hold on one second, because this property that the father, because this is not the same property, the father didn't leave them this property, put a loan on this property, and so a lien on this property, and so therefore it's not the father didn't leave them this property. He's just using the lien to collect the property. He never actually had it. Well, most nami lav hani most shavakavin. It wasn't this exact cash that the father left them. The father left them a note, and so therefore, it's just, this is not the exact same money as the loan. And so therefore, why is the firstborn entitled to a double portion of it? So that's the question on Rav Nachman. And furthermore, another question, Va'od, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Ravua, Yisomim Shagavu Karka, B'chovos Avian. And also, even according to you, Rav Nachman, if the orphans collected the real estate, Yisomim Shagavu Karka, B'chovos Avian, Ba'chov Choser V'govaman, that let's say the orphans came along and collected real estate as a debt of their father, then the creditor could come and seize the property from them. So this is the opposite of what Rav Nachman was saying, because Rav Nachman, I'm reading the Rashbam, Rav Nachman had considered money to be more muchzakos, more established in the person's property than real estate, in the estates than real estate. But we went the opposite, because if the borrower that the real estate of the borrower is considered to be more in the lender's possession than money, because Rav Nachman himself taught in the name of Rabbi Baravua that if orphans who are the children of the lender, if they collected real estate from the borrower as a debt of their father, then the creditor of their father, who their father owed money to, can go back and collect it from them. And so that's clear that the real estate was already in their father's possession, because if it wasn't there while the father was alive, how could the creditor collect it? Because if the orphans had acquired it after the death of their father, would the creditor be able to seize it? No, he wouldn't, because it's a open mishnah in Bechoros that a woman only collects her ksuba from muchzak and not from roy. So we see from here that from the fact that they're seizing the real estate, it's proof that the real estate was already in their estate's possession. So that's another question on Rabbah, because why is he saying that you can do money and not real estate? You don't get a double portion, when it's clear from here that according to Rav Nachman, you should get a double portion in the real estate. So Amar way, so Rabbah responds to Abaye, Lo edidi kasha, v'lo Rav Nachman kasha. Your questions are not difficult, not according to me, and not according to Rav Nachman, because Taima the Bnei Merava Kamrinon Vilon Lo Svirlon. That which we drew a distinction between collecting real estate and collecting money, that was only according to the reasoning of the Bnei Merava, meaning to say, who said that the firstborn takes a double portion in the loan. Velan lo svirlan, but we ourselves don't actually hold like that. But we follow like Shmuel, who says he doesn't take a double portion in the loan, and so therefore, both with real estate and with money, he doesn't get a double portion. I was only saying it according to the reasoning of the Bnei Merava, but we ourselves don't hold like that. Meaning to say, Rabbi was saying neither I or Rav Nachman actually agree with the Bnei Merava. We hold like Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel, who says that according to the Rabbanan, the firstborn does not get the double portion in the loan. But we were just saying only according to the reasoning of the Bnei Merava, who said that a firstborn does get a double portion in loan. So therefore, we were just trying to figure out according to them. But we ourselves don't agree with that. And that's why it's not a question on Rav Nachman about his contradiction. And that's why it's not a question on Rabbah according to the questions that he raised against me. So the Gemara says, and there's a long Rashbam where he works it out. Why each one of these questions is not a question. So we'll just leave it like that for now, that this is not a question for that reason, because they were only saying what the Bnei Merava said, but they themselves don't agree with. So now the Gemara says, what was this case of the Savta that Abaye had raised as a question on Rabbah? That what was this case of the Savta? So the Gemara says the case of the Savta is the following case. That there was a man who said yes, he was sick, so he was a shchivmera, and so he said nechasai l'savta on top of 125b. He says my assets are going to go to my grandma. Ubasra yarsai, and after she dies, I want them to go to my heirs. Now Havale Barta, he had a daughter, Dava Nesiba, who was married. So Shachivna b'chayibala. So this daughter died while her husband was still alive, ub'chayi savta, and while her grandmother was still alive. So Basar Deshliva, so after the grandmother died, Basar Deshliva savta asabal katava. So the husband comes along and says, listen, I'm the husband of the great granddaughter, but she was the daughter of the man who died originally. And he said, after the grandmother's death, it should go to his heirs. And that means it would go to my wife. And since my wife is dead, I inherit her. And so therefore I should get the estate. So Amarafuna liyarsei vafilu liyarsei yarsei. Rafuna says, you're right. He said to the estate and even to the estate of the estate. So that's you. Ravanan Amar liyarsei v'lo liyarsei yarsei. He said, no, it does not go to the husband. It goes to the heirs, but not to the heirs of the heirs. It goes back to the Safta. Shalchol misam. So then they sent a message from Eretz Yisrael. Hilchasa kavase de Ravanan. The law is like Ravanan that it does not go to the husband, bilav mitame, but not like for his reasoning. Meaning to say, Ravanan said the reasoning is because it goes to the heirs, but not to the heirs of the heirs. But that's not the reasoning of Eretz Yisrael, of the Amoraim of Eretz Yisrael. They're going to give a different reason. What's their reasoning? Diu Ravanan savar. Diu Ravanan savar afagav dahaveli. Bra Libarte or Yaris. So Ravanan was of the position that even if the daughter, meaning the great granddaughter, would have had a son, he still would not have inherited because he was an heir of an heir, Velohi. But it's not the case. Because if the great granddaughter had a son, Vada Yaris, then for sure we're going to say that grandson of the man who died, which is the son of the great granddaughter of the grandma, he for sure would have inherited. What's the reasoning why the husband in this case does not inherit? Because this is a case of ra'oi, because it was just earmarked for the wife. And the husband does not inherit earmarked for the wife. He only inherits what the wife actually has in her possession. And the husband does not inherit in that case because it's earmarked and it wasn't in her possession. But Rav Huna's position was that the husband would inherit. Do you want to say that Rav Huna is of the position that you do inherit, that the husband does inherit something that's earmarked as though it was already in his wife's possession? Do you want to say that position? That's challenging to say that. Earlier we said that the husband does not inherit Ra'oi, and nobody argued with that. So how come we're saying that? How come we're saying here that Rav Huna seems to be saying he does? So Amar Rabbi Elazar says Davar Zeh. Rabbi Elazar says, Davar Zeh, this matter, Niftach B'Gdolim, it started with the greats, V'nistayim B'Ktanim, and it'll finish with the small. Either he was being humble, or maybe he was saying it started with the Tanayim, but I'm going to conclude it, and I'm an Amora. So he says, Ko Omer Acharecha, Ko Omer Me'ach Shavdami. What's the reason why Rav Huna is saying that the husband inherits in this case? Because he says, whoever says, I'm giving this gift to you, and then after you, to you, it's like he's saying he's giving it to the second person right away, and that first person only has the rights to the fruits. So it's like the wife or the daughter or the great-granddaughter are all the same person. It's like she had it in her possession now, and the grandmother was just entitled to the fruits. So we say, Ko Omer Acharecha, Ko Omer Me'ach Shavdami. And Amar Rabba, indeed, Mistavar Taima de B'nei Merava, Indeed, Rabbah says the position of the Bnei Merava is logical. The Kadim Safta Vizavna Zabina Zavina. And the proof is because if she would have come along and sold it, it would be a valid sale. And so therefore, it's not muhsak in the great granddaughter. And so therefore, the husband does not have the right to inherit it because he doesn't get ra'oi. He only has muhsak. So therefore, the position of the Bnei Merava here is correct, and it would go to the grandmother's heirs, not the great-granddaughter's husband. So, Amar Rav Papa Hilchasa, Eina Bal Notol Beroi Kebemuchsak. And indeed, the halacha is the. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. One second. I'm just looking up a different gear. So here in the Baal Me'or. Okay, so then the Gemara says, Gemara wraps it up. The Gemara says, Amar Rav Papa Hilchasa Eina Bal Notol Beroi Kebemuchsak. Straight halacha is the husband does not take earmarked, does not inherit earmarked, only what she's mulsak in. And secondly, Eina Bakor Notel Beroi Kibamulsak. And the second thing is that the firstborn does also not get a double portion in the earmarked, only what the father already has. And number three, Eina Bakor Notel Pishnayim B'milva. And now we're going to paskin that he does not get a double portion in the loan, and this is like Shmuel, Bein Shagavu Karko, Bein Shagavu Mos. This is the way Rabbi explained it to Abaye. We actually paskin, whether it's real estate or money, does not get a double portion in the firstborn doesn't get a double portion in that inheritance. Umilva she'imo palgi. But if it was a loan that the son, the firstborn son himself took out, that then the firstborn had this exact loan from the father, then he takes half of the double portion and he gives the other half to his brothers because that's money that's in doubt, because we don't know if it's considered to be mufsak for his father because the firstborn that basically he wants to put a lien on his father's assets, and so therefore the father gave it to him, and so that he would get a double portion, or maybe it's no different from any other loan, and so therefore in that case we would split it. Okay, so here's today's daf, and if anybody has any questions, happy to discuss. Shkoyach to everybody.